Hi everyone, this is Sunette, and in this video we're having a look at fear of loss. Now, what has been interesting in my personal life, and I also recently did a post on this, interestingly enough, I'm learning quite a bit about myself and also my past within the relationship process that I'm walking with much more awareness and understanding of myself, my mind, the other, life. But at the same time, I'm also facing those moments or experiences of, I'm aware, so should be a piece of cake. When, there's always something tricky about our minds and thoughts and emotions and the experiences we go through within us, which is that, we unfortunately don't always have a observer or, an objective stance to what's going on inside of us. So sometimes we very quickly and easily can get caught up inside the inner movement of our consciousness, our own thoughts, energies, things like that. And not only that, but, I almost always find that there's something inside of us where the moment you want to go into like an ego or a superiority, it's like a part of you like literally grabs you when you go up into that, I'm going to put myself on a pedestal now, and just drags you down and says, no. It doesn't work like that. You don't live up there. You're right here. And within that, I've been grateful for learning that humbleness, that whenever and excuse my frankness, but whenever I fuck up, I can slow down, realize, okay, this happened. Not that it's ever easy, but you get to that point within yourself. And then you look back, reflect, learn, and do the best you can to change. Now, why am I starting with humbleness in relation to fear of loss? Because within myself and also so many others I've worked with throughout the years, I've noticed that, sometimes we face something inside of ourselves, let's say fear of loss, and we think, okay, all I need to do is investigate it, understand it, open it up within us and within myself, and then, get over it, and then that's done. Then I have transcended fear of loss, I'm done. When it doesn't quite work like that. Most of what we go through within us is so vast and so multidimensional that it can come up so many different ways. It almost has so many different faces. And fear of loss has been something that had these layers upon layers, also even within myself. Interestingly enough, when looking back on my life, I have, in many ways, lost things that I feared losing the most. I wonder if any one of you have possibly recently done that. If you can go back and if you possibly remember when you were a teenager, when you were younger, your schooling years, different phases of your life, if you can remember specific fears you had, and whether actually has it happened or something similar happened, have you even maybe met someone in your life to whom a fear that you have had happened? We've actually got so much sources of support within ourselves and our lives when it comes to understanding fear, and especially fear of loss. But more importantly, the fact of why am I also asking you to reflect on your life back and, really looking at, wait a minute, but I've actually walked through my fears of loss, is, fear of loss can sometimes become so consuming. And it's quite interesting because this pattern seems to also trigger and activate the most in relationships. The more deeper, intimate, closer relationships. And that fear of loss is experienced differently when I have a look at comparing my fear of loss experience to my parents, extended family, animals, relationships, this fear of loss is fear of loss, but the feel of it, the intensity of it, the experience of it was definitely different. And obviously, when it did happen, it's so odd, that I always had those fears, but when it happens, I would kind of almost forget that I ever had those fears. And, so that brought me to the question of what is the purpose, really, of fear of loss? Why am I allowing it in me to a point of entertaining it for days, weeks? Why am I not in the moments empowering myself to do something about it? To say to this fear of loss that keeps coming up in some way or another, hey, you go back to where you came from. I'm not interested in you coming up here in me or being a part of my everyday life. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that. I wish I could just have that voice, that parents often have with the kids. You just use that one voice, and you can sometimes say one word, and your kids just know. Walk away. Don't even try further. But, what is beautiful, though, about our minds, and annoying, yes. Because, like with me, there was a time with a particular pattern that I was facing, and I really just got to a point of wanting to tell it, really, just get out, just go away. And I once even just went for a run, get out. But it wouldn't, and this thing just came back more and more and more and more. Why? What is it about our minds, about our consciousness that's pushing us? It is saying, hey, you've got to change. To change doesn't mean you can just go annoyingly or suppressingly or, kind of sweeping it under the rug, just go away or don't come near me. You've got to address it. You've got to address that part of you because it's a part of you. Fear of loss has become a part of you. That's why it's coming up in you. It's not separate from you. You can't tell a part of yourself that's a part of the very fabric of your existence and the very fabric of your being, just go away. You've got to actually bring it closer, look at it, understand it, and change yourself within it. So whenever fear of loss has come up again, I can feel and experience that fear. It's very familiar. I think many, even in this moment, know exactly what I'm talking about, because that signature just it sits there. Almost, for me, it comes up in my solar plexus. Almost feels quite similar to anxiety, and it creates like this empty hole in my stomach. I can feel it right now. So it means, look, me still saying the words, still a little bit of energy there. And, what's worked for me most effectively were the things that I've struggled the most. And it's going to sound weird, but this is something you can try out for yourself. We all have different ways, techniques, and methods with dealing with energy. For me, this worked with the things that I struggled the most is bringing it closer within me. So whenever that fear would come up, I'd take a deep breath in and I'd say, okay, just come in. It's almost like I feel I can breathe it in, breathe it through my lungs into my chest. And I'd literally do this if I'm alone. Not walking around people, which look a bit odd. And breathe it in and spread it out inside yourself. And just go, okay, fear of loss is here. I choose not to experience myself in this fear. Instead, let me look at why did this fear of loss come up? What am I fearing losing here? Why is this happening right now? And how better can I deal with this? What is the better version of me I can be? Instead of being in fear, how about let me understand what position I am or what position my partner is in at the moment. Oftentimes, it would also be good to identify when your fear of loss comes up. For me, it came up when I felt I did something wrong, or I was too reactive or emotional. and that I had an impact or an effect on another person. Now you have to know what's more interesting is because I had that fear, what happened? I did it almost all the time. So obviously when you have that fear in you, it's like a part of you is also going, oh, okay, so you're saying who you are is you fear. It's just like this weird thing. You're fearing that, okay, you're going to make another person react. So you're saying that you kind of are already going to make the other person react. So you're trying to stop yourself with fear or prevent things with fear or not do something in fear, but you're saying in the part of you already doing it. It's like a weird thing. So in that you're already creating it. And, you know, fortunately, in many times I realized this before it was too late. What does it mean, realize this before it was too late? That I'll continue with in the next video. Thank you very much.